Hello and welcome, everyone. I'm Becky Schilling. It's great to have you with us for today's eMarketer Tech Talk, where we host amazing guests from all areas of media, ad tech, and MarTech. Today, we'll learn how data clean rooms can help maximize data privacy and marketing performance, future-proof campaign planning, and much more. With that said, let me introduce our guests. Marc Cestaro is the Senior Vice President of Sales North America at InfoSum, joining us from New York. Hello, Marc.
Hello, Becky. Thanks for having me.
And Amanda Grant is Executive Vice President, Global Head of Partnerships at Choreograph, also joining us from New York City. Hello, Amanda.
Hi, thanks for having me. Nice to be here.
Before we get into it, to our audience, let's keep it conversational. Just use the chat window on the right to tell us where you're joining us from and to submit your questions. We'll do our best to get to as many of your live questions as we can during the Q&A, so keep them coming. We have great content planned for you today. Marc, over to you.
Thanks, Becky. Happy to get into it. So we're going to start on focusing on some key areas for brands in the age of privacy. So the first aspect here is just driving growth with first-party data. So companies are obviously trying to innovate and find more ways to secure data on behalf of their customers. I think we all experienced this through the password crackdown when it comes to streaming, when you go to buy a cup of coffee and they're asking for your emails. So the collection of data has become prominent and become intertwined with their everyday lives. But this data is what unlocks all of the opportunity when it comes to data collaboration, how it helps drive scale for businesses, drive more sales, drive more eyeballs, whatever the goals may be. So that growth of first-party data is more prominent than ever. It's a huge focus across all different industries. As consumers, we're becoming more aware of it. So how that data is collected is important. But it enables a lot of different things to take place, which leads us to the middle part here, which is refining audience strategies. So leveraging that data, that first-party data, to build richer customer profiles, to understand more about prospects, customers, their behaviors, how you drive different behaviors based on different assets, how you work across different organizations, and how to really ultimately redefine data strategies, whether it be in marketing, advertising, or any type of business outcome along the way. We see this from managing opt-outs, but really understanding where data is coming from drives to the different types of strategies that are available. But none of that is possible without this third bucket here, which is prioritizing data strategy. As InfoSum, we were born in Europe in a GDPR compliant world, but here in the States, we see that privacy is becoming more and more prominent as well. And if data is not collected properly, then nothing else really matters, right? Everything falls apart immediately if that prioritization and that data privacy isn't at the core of what you do. So from a clean room standpoint, we certainly ensure our customers are protected, but it starts at the very beginning of that journey, obtaining that data and making sure you're following the right protocols and the right, rules, essentially. And that's what trickles down to the different types of growth and different types of strategies. So with that being said, Amanda, I just wanted to see how you're helping brands at Choreograph and how these sort of three sort of lenses stack up with what you're seeing on your side.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of fragmentation in the space, which leads to a lot of questions, but also to a lot of advertiser opportunities. And I wouldn't say, we're at the beginnings. We've been talking to clients for years now about, what privacy-centric means. Also, what does cookieless or today, what does less cookies mean? And I would say through that lens, there's a lot of different clients on different phases of this journey. I think the most important thing or a framework that anyone can use, whether they're kind of getting into the space or they're somewhere in that journey, is having a crawl, walk, run approach. Because the goal really at this point is movement forward, and kind of assessing what data assets that you have today that can turn into a data strategy that works with partners and tools and works with your agencies on collaboration. So I think, if you find yourself not anywhere on that journey or path, just kind of engaging in that model to begin movement forward. It doesn't mean necessarily that you're sitting on first-party data assets today. There's a lot of clients that have been tapping into those data resources for years and using those for campaign performance and outcomes. But just thinking about like what you have and how you advance, whether, it's a 1 to 3 to 5 year view, whether it's crawl, walk, run, it's putting together a plan and thinking logistically exactly what it takes to make that happen. Do you have the right partners? Do you have the right connections and discussions with your agencies around this? Do you have the right teams embedded on your end to be able to think about what this means to bring this into a media framework?
Awesome. Yeah, I think that definitely matches what we're hearing on our side and how our teams are working together as well. So appreciate that insight. And we'll kind of jump into the next phase here, which is how we help empower brands to excel in this sort of data first world. And we're going to try to simplify that into 4 sections here. Obviously, you can slice and dice this a million different ways, and we could spend hours on this. But for the sake of brevity, we've bucketed this out into 4 different portions here. So the first is just powering all marketing use cases. So from the InfoSum standpoint, from clean rooms as a whole, that means enabling customers to extract whatever value they need. And in order to do that, you have to be able to provide all the different opportunities, all the different use cases. So that can be from onboarding, that could be from generating insights, that could be media planning. What's my match to a publisher? What kind of value can I, arrive to based on the attributes I have available? That can be from media activation. That could be from enrichment, vetting different data sources and being able to leverage that data either inside or outside of the clean room. And then, of course, after activation, after enrichment comes measurement and attribution. What is the performance of this? How did I deliver? What did I learn? I think learning is an incredible and the most important aspect in all of this, right? If you're not learning throughout the entire process, you're just doing it wrong. And learning can be ideally from all good things, but every once in a while you might learn something from a challenge that you encounter and how you improve on that. But the enabling every use case along the journey is incredibly important. And ultimately, per what Amanda said before, I think that's how you get to success. That's how you establish that crawl, walk, run. And run can really take you to a lot of different places. So moving onwards from use cases is the next aspect that we really see as a differentiator and something that the market is really ripe for at the moment, which is ensuring that collaboration is fast and easy. So, at InfoSum, we operate on a marketer-friendly drag and drop UI, which really takes the promise of data collaboration and inserts it in the hands of maybe someone not necessarily a data scientist. We certainly work with data scientists, but we're really trying to make the approach to data collaboration easier and faster and more simple. And by opening up the approach to the consumers, the different types of users, you really kind of hit that at a different angle, which allows you to take flight a little bit faster. And we're making it easier to get going. So collaboration that has to be fast, that's also from a query generation. What are my results when I want to look at overlap or insights or any of the types of use cases we just discussed? Being able to do that in seconds, but being able to do that without years of data science training also helps kind of, as this industry comes to a hold, it's sort of like the beginning of advanced TV, where everyone was sort of in this process of learning. Getting started was sometimes more challenging. Platforms came along to make that a little bit more streamlined. That's where we're finding ourselves and really separating ourselves is by making that really simple, really easy to use. The third bucket here is multi-party data collaboration. So with respect to the US in general, it's an incredibly common theme. I'd say the majority of our customers are doing multi-party collaboration. That can be from someone like a Choreograph on a data asset side, working with a publisher and an advertiser. That can be 2 brands working together with a publisher. That can just be a brand, a data partner, and a publisher. But generally speaking, in the US, it's incredibly common to have multi-party collaboration. So meeting our customers where they are among their use cases and having the right partners in market, working with data partners, working with identity partners, working with publishers, working with data assets, working with agencies and working with advertisers, having the right parties at play and enabling all these use cases and enabling them simple and easy is really the name of the game and somewhere that we really strive to separate ourselves. And then the last piece I would argue is the most important, ensuring their success from day one. I think as a whole, there's a little bit of this question in the air of how do I get started and what's the best place? And we're really focused on, and we work with the Choreograph team and others in ensuring that the process is simple and easy. We know exactly what to expect. We know what partners are available. We know what the challenges we're looking to solve for. We ensure that legal paperwork is out of the way and really that we can complete the circle of the process rather than saying, here's what you should do, and then leaving, right? And we have great teams and partners like Choreograph and great teams across our partners as a whole that are aware of what this should entail and really helping connect the dots, because it's one thing to say what you should do, but really acting on it is completely separate. And we're trying to take a very consultative approach, bring the right parties to the table and make sure that it's a success from day one. And that's a really a core focus of this industry as a whole, right? You can say all different things, but if you can't act on them, you're going to struggle. And we're really focused on making sure our clients are able to do what they want. And we're able to help them along the way with our team, our partners, and their collaboration partners as well. So that's kind of a quick lay of the land on my side. Amanda, I want to kick it over to you to see, how do you find Choreograph across both the data and services arms? How are you guys supporting clients on their data-driven journey? And how do these kind of different 4 buckets fall into your purview day to day?
Sure. So Group M Choreograph, we look to enable better and improved effectiveness of client outcomes through collaboration on my prior point. And what that means for us is bringing in diverse data sources in a single view, creating fresh insights, and kind of unlocking and uncovering data that our clients don't even know, that they have. This all enables new media opportunities, new commerce opportunities, and it leads to new partnerships. So, and essentially the agency role and where Group M and Choreograph play a key pivotal part to kind of take what a partner like InfoSum does in the privacy space, is where we enhance and unlock and provide that optimization. And we create advantage for our clients through this collaborative use of data. That's why we partnered with InfoSum, and we need to be able to meet the demand of clients. So we look to kind of hear the voice of the client in this space in terms of who they want to work with, and our ability to kind of come in and lead through collaboration and enhancements. A major outcome for us, whether you kind of just start with match processes or you move that into something more around enhancing profiles, getting into measurement and attribution. There's a lot of ways to kind of unlock the value of data collaboration environments and data clean rooms.
Awesome. And that's perfect. And that kind of leads us into our next slide here, which is an illustration of different ways in which our partnership works today. Again, difficult to show an all-encompassing illustration of this, but we'll talk through a couple quick scenarios here of the different ways in which we're partnering together. In this initial example, you see Choreograph on the bottom. Choreograph has a data asset which allows for insights across customers. On the top, we have something like a partner bunker. A partner bunker could be an advertiser, it could be a publisher, it could be whomever. It's any one of our partners. In this example, we'll look at it through the lens of an advertiser. So let's just say an advertiser comes in, they have limited first-party data. They might know who an existing customer is, and they might only have an age bracket. They can leverage Choreograph's data asset to understand more about their retail purchasers, their hobbies, and their crafts, what they do at home, their demographics, all different types of insights to generate a more robust profile. And then they can take that information and overlay it across the variety of partners and platforms and publishers that we work with to make more informed decisions from a planning and activation standpoint. And then, of course, from measurement as well. So really, this can go a couple of different ways. Again, Choreograph can be working with a publisher at top, and this can be from an investment standpoint. This could be from an onboarding standpoint, or this can be just from deriving better customer insights, understanding customers, suppression, whatever it might be. But we really work across Choreograph in really 2 different lenses primarily. To oversimplify, there's the data asset, then there's the services arm. We're ensuring that the teams are available to help the customers, the advertisers along on this journey. So some of this can be from a service layer and saying, hey, advertiser, check out these different data partners that you guys have been talking to, and we can leverage InfoSum to connect the dots. Sometimes it's directly through Choreograph. And then that can take us on any one of a journey from insights to enrichment to planning to activation to measurement. But really, our teams kind of work together and from those 2 different approaches, whether it's data driven from the asset standpoint, but it always encompasses some form of service layer, and that's where our partnership really resides. So again, this is just a high level view of the different types of use cases available and really just how our partnership works, data asset or not. But hopefully, a good little snippet into some of the opportunities that we're doing together. Coming out of this, I just want to do a quick sort of recap of what we talked about thus far, what Amanda shared, what I've talked about. So one of the high points here that we certainly want to hit on is that data collaboration is critical, right? First-party data is ever more prevalent, and being able to use that in a strategic way is really what separates the best from the best. So it's somewhere that we really are focused on. We have tremendous partners helping our clients become successful. And in order to be in a data collaboration world and to be successful, it doesn't mean you have to have the most data ever. You can have limited first-party data. There are still ways to capitalize on that. In fact, we see a lot of activity from those with less first-party data. It's about the journey and understanding where they need to go, what's possible, and Choreograph does a great job of that as well. And we'll hear a little bit about that later, I'm sure. But that journey is incredibly important. And at InfoSum, we've been in this game for 7 years, and we're really committed to making this happen for all of the partners involved. So data collaboration as a whole, we see it from the data collection standpoint, we see it from the different use cases, but that as an industry has really taken off. And I think it's a little bit akin to advanced TV from the earlier stages of the fragmentation, dealing with it. As an independent, we find ourselves in a really unique situation where we're not cloud-based, we're not identity-based, but we have this relationship with a lot of major players where we can help that connectivity take place. The second part here is incredibly important. I think Amanda kind of hit this earlier. The right move is movement, right? Getting started, getting your toe in the water is incredibly important. You don't have to do everything all at once, but as long as you get that momentum going, you will find that you'll become more and more successful. I can't tell you how many of our customers started with something so simple and have become everyday users, and even more than I would say. So it's incredibly important to just get started. You don't have to be perfect. You should have a test and learn mindset. So that's number 3. We at InfoSum are more than happy to help you with that. We have great partners in the folks like Choreograph that are also incredibly skilled at setting up what test campaigns should be, what a POC should be, what are your objectives, what are our timelines, who should we work with, who should we test with, right? Clean rooms allow for collaboration to take place among partners that you're not always working with. So having that skill set, having those teams to help connect those dots, it may seem daunting, but I could promise you it's things that we've done for a long time. We're very good at it, both our teams. So don't let that be a barrier. I would say embrace that, be ready to move, and then ask for help if you need it. You do not have to be perfect. You just got to get started, which lands on the last one, which is, like any kind of new innovation, crawl, walk, run is really the best way to approach it. I hate to use the cliche that everybody uses, but it really is true, right? So you don't have to start by doing everything. You start by something simple. That could be a match test, that could be insights, it can be replacing an activation that you've already done today. Then what does that scale to? And I say walk is really what we talk about day to day, and run is totally different. Run is somewhere that you can, it's advanced use cases beyond the general. It's somewhere that we're heading in the future. These are things that bringing different brands together, different product lines, sponsorships. It's beyond just the typical kind of use cases that we see. There's a lot there. There's a lot within the opt-out forums. There's a lot within FinServe. So there's a lot to happen when it comes to run. Run can mean something different from everyone, but run should really, in our view, it should be beyond kind of what you're comprehending today and kind of look to the future, right? Use this innovation to take you to push the boundaries, and let crawl and walk be the different points that get you from A to B to Z today. And then run is totally different. So having that flexibility, having a platform that supports that, ensuring that privacy is always at the forefront of all that we do. And that's what helps these different types of collaborations really get off the ground, like legacy wise, the legal aspect of it and the privacy aspect really bog things down. So having a platform like ourselves that really mitigate that risk allows all this to happen at unprecedented speeds, sometimes in seconds. So with that, I go back to the right move is movement, have a plan, ask for help if you need a plan, and then let's scale it, crawl, walk, run. So from my side, that's a brief recap of really some of the different pieces that we wanted to go to today. I'd love to kick it over to you, Becky. So over to you.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that great information about empowering brands to succeed in a data and privacy first era so that we can move from that crawl, walk, and get into that run phase. We got a lot of great audience questions for you guys, so let's get into it. The first question, Marc, I think this one's for you. Some brands only have access to small amounts of first-party data, and some have none at all. How does InfoSum and Choreograph's partnership benefit those brands?
Absolutely. So not having any data is not an issue. It's something that we see quite a bit of. Right? There's certain categories or industries that tend to have less first-party data than others. And partners like Choreograph, partners like some of our data assets, essentially enable a virtual spine. So you can create a data set that you can work off of without owning that first-party data. You can use that to get a better profile of what you know your customers are doing and what you think they're doing, and build from there. So it's certainly not a limitation. I would say actually you'd be surprised at how many customers don't have a lot of first-party data, but are still in the data collaboration space. I see it as an excellent way to really get those discussions moving and get that growth happening, because it also helps set the trend of how you should look to collect that data and how you should look to grow that profile, right? Kind of start from a better benchmark than just guessing from the beginning. So I'd say that's certainly not a limitation. In fact, it's something that we get quite a bit of use from.
And a follow-up question from that, where does that initial data come from? Are you looking at customers' data and creating a form of a lookalike?
Yeah, so it could certainly be a lookalike. I would say that's generally derived off of some form of first-party data. So in that example, it would be a limited use of first-party data, which is totally fine, and that's maybe akin to more of a CPG type brand. It could also just be through partners like a Choreograph that can build a profile that you can work off of. It could be through partners in an Experian or a TransUnion, or if it's purchase-based, NCS or a Circana or whoever it might be. So it doesn't have to entail that. You would create essentially like your seed, your core profile, then you get to start to test that against where does it live, what publishers does this match against, how does it perform, and you can tweak that over time to essentially derive or land at your own sort of asset that is not that didn't originate from first-party data.
Great. Amanda, I think this one is for you. How do data clean rooms enhance Choreograph's capabilities and ability to make data more accessible and insights more actionable for its clients?
Yeah, great. So I would say building a little bit on the commentary from before, Group M and Choreograph, where we come in around collaboration and what does that mean? So it's typically defined in the brief through the data strategy. Essentially, we need to be able to assemble, to analyze, and interpret disparate data sources. And we take that through whatever approach that we're using, whatever tactic that we're using the data clean room for, to look at the data in this way and enhance. We bring that into Open Media Studio, our end-to-end platform, so that we can provide a more unified insights and activation roadmap, whether it's for an activation team or it's for a client, it's for someone who's in that discovery phase of campaign ideation. Where do you go? Where do you play? You're already in the midst of campaigns. You're looking to enhance and expand where your target audiences are, be able to build upon the current data sources that you have, or you're looking to do something a bit more refined in measurement and outcomes through something like attribution. These are the specific capabilities that we look to provide as a service and product to our clients.
Awesome. I've got a question about media agencies. Marc, I'm going to shoot this one over to you. Choreograph obviously has data assets that brands can collaborate directly with, but would you be able to expand on the role of media agencies more generally in data collaboration? And can they get hands-on or act on behalf of brands?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the answer is yes to that, and I think it varies a little bit by agency. Some agencies do have data assets like a Choreograph, and in which case those are bunkered or leveraged within our platform for querying and insights and any of the other use cases that we talked about before. That being said, a lot of times we have customers, our customers are directly the advertisers, and they're granting permissions to the agency partners to help drive their data strategy. What that means is, without having to hand over their first-party data, they can leverage that for querying without the risk of PII moving from place to place. And you could put that in the hands of a data scientist at a Choreograph or whatever the agency might be to help drive planning, activation, measurement, enrichment, all the different types of insights and profiling that we look to do. So it doesn't require an asset. You can certainly, we like to say it's a two-way street. It can be driven by the customer, by the advertiser. It can be driven by the agency. And quite frankly, it could be driven by any of the parties that you're working with. That's determined throughout the process, but it's very flexible. And sometimes we have customers that just bunker their data and completely hand it over from that point on, and the agencies drive the rest. Sometimes customers do it directly themselves. So it's very flexible in nature by that. And I would say it varies a little bit from partner to partner and agency to agency.
And a perfect follow-up to that is we're asking about user consent here, and with data vendors, how do you manage user consent when you're partnering with so many data vendors at the same time? For example, if someone unsubscribes or asks for their data to be purged, does it rapidly cascade across all your partnerships?
So yeah, that's a simple answer from our end. Is at InfoSum we don't own data. We're not a data or identity vendor. So that happens upstream by the partners. So they're, as with any partner, right? They have to manage their consent. So really that can be automated by the updates and replace whatever cadence they need, if it's hourly, daily, weekly. And then that just gets refreshed in the platform and gets removed. We do a lot of opt-out work as is. So it is something that we're familiar with and that our technology supports. But as InfoSum, we just support it from a technology layer. We're not in the data collection space.
Great. Amanda, this one is for you. Can you share how Choreograph works well and ties into, or works with, and ties into other areas of Group M?
Yeah, this is an easy one. So Choreograph is Group M. You probably heard me mention Group M a few times. Choreograph is the data and technology arm of Group M. So Group M being a, assortment of many agencies. We work with all of our agencies. We work with our activation teams. We work directly with clients as well so that we can understand their needs. We're looking to build and solve for client problems as a core crux of what we're doing over here. And a big part of that is also the partnership side of things. So what clients are kind of sharing with us and who they want to work with, who they want to understand more about, while we're really sitting in this, collaboration and enhancement and advancement space around data clean rooms. We want to make sure that we have the right partners in place so that clients are able to tap into the partner of their choice or the best partner based on their current scenario, maturity curve, crawl, walk, run. There's different partners who kind of fit into different areas, and many play across the entire landscape. But essentially, we're here to be that solution and solve for Group M agencies and Group M clients. And keen to work with InfoSum in the future on this with new clients.
Great. Marc, you touched on the need for brands to redefine audience strategies and how data clean rooms enable this. But what new opportunities do data clean rooms provide? And what are the top use cases you see brands using data clean rooms from your perspective?
Yeah, this is, I guess, a two-part question. So I'd say from a use case, it really varies brand by brand. So it's hard to just generalize that. It could be anywhere from profiling, it could be enrichment based, be managing suppression like we just discussed. It could be a combination, right? Some larger orgs have disparate data sets. So how do we create a virtual union across those to get a holistic view of properties? That could also be on the publisher side. So the use cases are incredibly varied. It could just be more traditional media planning, activation. So a lot of flexibility on that. We do a lot of enrichment from data assets to publishers to measurement partners, any of those types of flows. In terms of new use cases, I think those are things that are continuing to be established and pop up, quite often. I'd say one of the newest things isn't necessarily net new. It's just a different way of doing it. And that is enabling data collaboration to take place incredibly fast. You're de-risking all the barriers prior and limitations, right? If you work with a crosswalk partner, you were limited by what they can do, and every partner sort of had to opt into that. If you had other assets or different, legacy tools, they were limited in nature too. This, data collaboration in the clean room space is more of an interoperable space. So being able to work with different partners or partners, that you're interested in but have never been able to sort of get off the ground, right? You might have circled the wagon for years talking to the same people, which I think we're all guilty of in this industry. But a clean room and a good clean room can help enable that partnership to finally get going. And that could be as simple as insights. That could be, something that we kind of view as window shopping, but something that historically was a barrier because there's a major legal barrier to entry. There's a cost to entry, and there's just a prioritization order with any sort of tech stack. And how you get brought to the top of that order may be demand driven, may be a bunch of different things. but clean rooms really mitigate all that risk because it's, in our world, it's drag and drop. But that collaboration takes place with anyone within our network, so long as permissions are granted. So in terms of new use cases, like I said, there's certainly an incredible amount of them, but I would focus on not necessarily new, but shifting the dynamic to making it incredibly easy and fast. And rather than having to manage dozens, if not more, direct integrations, one clean room should give you the feeling of dozens or hundreds of direct integrations, but all from one instance. And that's something that we support. So it's speeding it up. It's in capturing the utmost privacy and preservation of data, but it's enabling scale at unprecedented rates. I think that's what I would call new, and that's how I would answer that.
Great. Marc, we knew this one was coming. Cookies. Does Google's recent announcement change anything?
From my view, not at all. I think we've been on this journey for a long time, and you were right. We knew that was coming. We've talked about this a little bit. We knew this was coming for a long time, right? Organizations have been prepared for this for a while. I think to sit here and say that cookie is still as relevant as it was 1, 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago is nuts. So I think cookies have already gone away. The opt-in, the consent management of that has really changed the game. So from our viewpoint, it really changes nothing. I think our customers that were in that game are already prepared to move forward, and we've been helping them for years, quite frankly, in that. And I think the drop off has been incredibly real. So from my view and from the data collaboration space as a whole, like I don't think it changes much. I think that change took place a long time ago, and we're well past it at this point.
All right, we have time for just one more question. Marc, I'll send this one your way. What are some actionable steps to build a successful data collaboration strategy?
Yeah, first one I would say is get started, get moving right away, now, and come up with a plan. Like, what are you trying to learn? What would be most helpful? And whether you prioritize it or not, like, what is your ultimate initial goal? And again, it doesn't have to be lofty. It can be very simple, but come up with a plan, get started, and don't be afraid to ask for help. So I'd say that the plan for setting it up is, if you have data or not, it's okay. Come up with what you're trying to achieve. Ask for help as to how you can expand upon that goal, right? Is it insights driven? Is it suppression? Is it growing your audience profiles? Is it working with new vendors? Is it testing some new, project or some new platform or some new publisher? Understanding how to connect those dots, right? Work with someone like an InfoSum, work with someone like Choreograph to understand what is necessary to do so. And then let them help shape the direction, the walk and the run of where you're going from there. Let us shape where your data is today and how the connectivity takes place. But really, I would say it's come up with an initial goal. Don't be afraid to get started. And then, don't be afraid to ask for help either.
Marc, Amanda, thank you again for this great content and for answering all the questions from our audience. We really appreciate it. Before we wrap up, let me take a moment to tell you about eMarketer's media channels. Visit eMarketer.com to register for upcoming live analyst and Tech Talk webinars and sign up for our newsletters. Don't forget to tune into Behind the Numbers, eMarketer's daily podcast, which you can find anywhere you listen to podcasts. Keep an eye out on your email for the link to today's playback. And of course, feel free to contact us if you have any other questions. Thank you all for your time. And thanks again to Marc, Amanda, the team at InfoSum, and our eMarketer studio team behind the scenes for making this webinar possible. We'll see you all on the next Tech Talk.